Welcome to the new Overlords Podcast. I'm Max, that's Sema, and we talk about video games. Old-timey video games that we just love to remember and think about. And so coming up, we're going to talk about nostalgia and the nostalgia we have for games and whether it is real or not and why nostalgia is a thing even. We're also going to talk about some news on details following up on our roadmap of MMOs show. We got some details on the Star Wars: The Old Republic update that's coming and the Lord of the Rings, which we knew we would be getting the announcement. We got the announcement of the expansion. And finally, we will talk about new games. I played and spent time in Halo Campaign Evolved. That's what got me thinking about nostalgia. And I played Beast of Reincarnation. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But before we do that, let's say hi to our co-host, who we all remember fondly from the good old days of SWTOR Escape Podcast. Hello there, Sema. Hi. Hello. How are you?
I see that you are consumed with nostalgia today.
I am, but I'm really not. And I'll explain that.
I am highly motivated by nostalgia, and I'm highly motivated by what's new. So the only thing I don't like apparently is what's current.
I only live in the past and the future.
Right. It's not a good place to be.
You in front of me, you bore me. Stop boring me. Either be something good from the past or change into something better.
And I'm nostalgic about things that I never even had in the past, just like other people had.
So, and that's a thing.
Well,
and we're going to talk about that. That's definitely a thing. And we'll talk about it. We got a whole discussion come up on that. First, let's talk about the news.
Good news, everyone.
We did get news on Star Wars: The Old Republic. So Jackie posted, they had their live stream, right? They had the dev stream, and commensurate with the dev stream, they put the first fight out of the new operation on the PTS.
Yeah.
And we went and saw it. We looked in there. We stepped in there and looked in there, and we saw, and we died a couple times.
Right, we did.
We only had a few minutes. We were only just wanted to get in there and pull it and just sort of see what the room looked like and what the art looked like. And
we had a couple people who couldn't get the PTS downloaded in time.
Yeah, true. We only went in there with 6 people.
But a lot of people have been streaming that new instance, so that's cool.
Fun for them to figure it out cold, which I think is a fun part of it.
Yeah.
Now they did an interesting thing in there, which I think I think it's unique. What they did is they put a bunch of terminals in the room with the boss, so further away before you pull the boss, where you can basically crank up and crank down different variables of the difficulty. And what they're trying to get is to dial in what's going to be story mode, what's going to be veteran, and what's going to be master mode version. Or is there even a master mode? I don't know what the different difficulty modes of the operation are going to be. I thought that was interesting, and I wonder how it's going to work out for them. If they're going to get the data that they want out of that versus doing the work to tune it ahead of time to what they would need it to be.
I don't know. I mean, when I was watching Aliva's team stream it briefly, they said they were doing it on hard mode. So there must be some actual mode. I don't know specifically what those terminals are all for. But I would not be shocked if we came in after launch and they weren't there for sure.
Right. No, I think even in the forums where they talk about it, they said specifically, you can notch it up, you can notch it down. And this is to get us the data that we need to sort of configure it. So we'll see. But it looks interesting. The room is split in half. There's a blue side and a red side, and we're going to get to, and I think that's supposed to be kind of light side, dark side. And then you get different circles on you, and the boss does different things. And I think you sort of switch back and forth on different sides of the room as a result, playing with that idea of dark side, light side abilities and the split of what's going on. Which I wonder if that's pointing to the theme of the new expansion. So they did announce the new expansion 8.0, which is coming out before the end of the year, and it's Children of Null. So the idea of what Darth Null was headed for, which was kind of like the Force Awakens. It was, let's let anybody who has any sort of Force affinity get it awakened in them so that they can go out there and they can have control of their destiny. So, and get out of the loop of, on the Empire side, you're just sent to Dromund Kaas to die or become a Sith Lord. Or on the Republic side, you're sent to be a monk or get kicked out and, and sort of like no training in the Force, for it to be sort of opened up. That's what I wanted the sequel trilogies to be about, and they weren't. I wanted the at the end of Force Awakens, when you see the little boy with the broom, I wanted it to be, what if everybody had superpowers? But then they didn't do that. And they said, no, we're just gonna just forget about that. We're gonna go a different direction. And then the third movie, they said, now forget about the first two movies, and we're gonna go another new direction. But yeah, what do you think? Would you want that kind of story to be told, or do you not think that's what they're going for with the Children of Null?
I think they're going to just lean into what they've been leaning into lately, is that everybody's bad. It's all gray. So whatever the machine is for, one side is going to use it wrong and the other side's also going to use it wrong.
Mm. Why can't it be everybody's good?
Yeah.
If
we're going to make them all the same anyway.
Yeah, why does Shades of Grey have to be like bad? Like
it's what's popular now.
Yeah.
Right now.
Everybody's cuz being bad, you got to have friction. It can't be like, right. The Republic uses it to help the people and the Empire uses it to to make things run more efficiently.
The friction doesn't have to be inside me. Like, I would pick you, but I can't because of this, and now I can't pick you either because blah blah blah. It's sort of like, yeah, you do have to have friction or it's not interesting.
Yeah. But we don't know a lot about the rest of the expansion yet. We will be learning more throughout the rest of the year, so we will keep an eye out for that. And let's see, are we going back in there tomorrow? Probably not. Are we not? I don't know. We'll have to ask.
We're missing somebody tomorrow, so
yeah, we'll have to ask our boss whether or not we are.
Corley is the boss of us.
Also in MMO news, and we got this teased when we talked about it last week. It was just last week, right? Feels like so long ago. I'm nostalgic for our last episode. We knew that they would be announcing. We knew that there was a new Lord of the Rings expansion coming. They talked about it, but they said we're not going to tell you what it is yet until Gamescom. It was Gamescom? No, whatever. No,
Gen Con.
Con-Man.
Second con.
It's Lord of the Rings, Wolves of Mordor. The Wolves of Mordor. That is what the expansion is going to be called. And it's going to have a bunch more Mordor that we won't simply walk into, and a bunch of stuff related to kind of like the history and the things inside of Mordor and the sort of like the land and society and stuff going on. So that's cool.
Yeah, and that wolf definitely looks like it's scary.
It does look scary, but it doesn't look like a warg.
No, it looks like its own thing, for sure.
Yeah, it does. This does make me think of a place where there is no both sides are bad, shades of gray. Lord of the Rings is not about both sides are bad.
No.
Lord of the Rings is about there's a bad side and a good side, and we as players, even in Lord of the Rings, the MMO, we are the good side. There's a way in very rare instances where you can play on the bad side, and that's like if you just go into this sort of like the set aside PvP zone, you can level up a monster character and play that. But it's not really your character. Yeah, you're just a monster. Yeah. And I mean, it's called monster play. You get to be a monster if you want to, but it's not like a main character. You don't like take it back out into the main game. Everybody in the main game, all the characters in the main game are good, and there is no shades of gray.
And that's how Star Wars started out too, which I'm nostalgic for that.
That's right. It was supposed to be the good side and the bad side, the light side and the dark side, and you were supposed to only want to be the good and the light and the hopeful and fight against the darkness.
The original meaning of bring balance to the Force meant to get rid of the dark side, not to go 50-50.
Right. But like it's cool to have to be the bad guy.
You wouldn't want to have like 50% healthy and 50% cancer.
Right.
That wouldn't feel balanced. That would feel like having cancer.
Right, which it is. Which it actually is. That's a good point. Yeah, 50% healthy and 50% cancer is just having cancer.
Right.
So there's no shades of gray in having cancer. It's just a little bit of cancer. Yeah. But Star Wars: The Old Republic was also brought to market in a time when the two factions that could battle each other was like the way to do it. WoW sort of set that standard in a big way and was very successful with it. So everybody tried to sort of like go that direction for a little while. I guess not everybody. Star Wars did. And that's why they went down that path.
Right. And it wasn't long before it just culturally we started to view it as a simplistic kind of story. But I still like it.
Yeah.
I'm a simple person.
Simple. I'm just a simple farmer. I'm a simple podcaster. And I simply like simple games. Let's talk about what's coming soon. There is a simple, maybe not that simple, but a nice, it's a hot game on the cozy front that people have been waiting for a long time because it's been in early access for 2 years. It's not a big surprise, but it's Fields of Mistra. And Fields of Mistra is a pixel game, very Stardew Valley-ish. In fact, people are really talking about it as a Stardew Valley, like even much more so than I talked about in terms of Moonlight Valley. Is that Moonlight?
Right. It was Moonlight. What was that one called from last week?
Anyway, Glade Moonlight Moon. That
Vampire Farms.
Vampire Valley.
Vampire Farms remembers.
That one is a much different look. It's a 3D. Still the sort of like a 3/4 view, but it's a 3D world and it's different character models. This looks just like it's a pixel game. Like look, they're even like in a little dungeon, just like they have in like the mines. Moonlight Peaks.
But it is a different style of art because it's still pixel art, but it looks like anime version as opposed to
it does. Yeah.
And there's a lot of like waist up scenes that are like much higher fidelity than when you playing the little people walking around in the game.
And all of the, like they did a little cinematic trailer part, and that's very anime. It's like the anime facial expressions and
with the
anime style of characters.
The sort of the barbell shaped mouth.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting too, because when you read about it, people talk about it, maybe it will, the first game in a long time they can possibly unseat Stardew Valley. And I'm like, really? We're having this conversation about unseating another game here in 2026? Like, who even talks like that anymore?
Right. That doesn't work that way. And if it was to unseat Stardew Valley, it would take 15 years because Stardew Valley has sold 50 million copies.
Right.
And will continue to sell copies. So why,
It's a title clickbait thing to say, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. But I guess. Stardew Valley killer. Click.
Right.
You got me. Your bait has worked. Suck down that hook and line, hook, line, and sinker. The other fun thing about this that everybody who's a fan is happy about is Retail price is $13.99, and the launch introductory 10% off is $12.59. So for $12.50, that's a really cheap price for a hotly anticipated little cozy game. So that's great.
Right.
Good
And
for
it's
them.
been in early access for a couple of years, so it's a pretty safe bet that it's a playable game if you want
Yeah,
to do a farming sim. Yeah.
right. Overwhelmingly positive as well in the recent reviews and non-recent reviews. Also, we did say last week that Restory is coming out tomorrow. That's another sort of like cozy chore game where you're fixing nostalgia-driven electronics from the 90s and the 2000s in your little electronics shop. That looks fun. Grain Rot is coming out in 2 days. I mentioned that one, which is just a really cool style of horror co-op extraction builder is what they call it. But cool little robot designs that we talked about. And then another big bit of news, which is slightly controversial that I did want to bring up and talk about, is Stars Reach. So what we ended up hearing in the past week is Stars Reach has decided that it is time for early access. And all of the Stars Reach backers, Kickstart backers, and fans that have been playing have decided it is not time for early access. What are you talking about? You're crazy. Well, Ralph Koster, this is that game, the MMO, which does look really interesting. And I have kept an eye on. It's very open world and very sort of like player driven open world, and includes terraforming as one of the mechanics. So as you get into like a new area or exploring a new part of a planet and you decide you want to build there, you could like carve out a valley and, like this like massive terraforming that can go on, which seems pretty cool. And then a lot of freeform building on, in that, in those areas to like sort of like build out your bases and transform the world. But yes, it's been in development for a little while. They did have a Kickstarter. I think a large part, it's speculation, but what they were going for in a lot of the, what people think was happening was the Kickstarter was done to generate interest and get some funding, but not enough funding to build the game. And the intent was then to use that to prove interest to publishers to get the $100 million that they would need to make a large scale MMO. And they haven't gotten that. They haven't gotten the big publisher and the big infusion of funding. So the speculation continues in that this now needs to go to early access on August 18th in order to hopefully get some funding and to get them to be able to continue to make the game. But that's a precarious situation. And a few other, Ashes of Creation is a very notable example of last ditch effort. Let's go to early access. Oh, that didn't work out. We're shutting down. That just happened. So it's not a good time to make that kind of pitch with your MMO on the heels of that one failing 6 months ago. I hope it doesn't fail. I think we could use more fun MMOs like this out there as options. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it and see what they can do and see if they can make it into a thing. We've been losing too many of the MMOs lately. The in development MMOs, it'd be nice for one of them to actually get to market. Anything else on the coming soon news? I guess one more thing on the coming soon, because it's going to come before next podcast, is we'll get the next WoW update, right?
Yep. And this is it's the major. Like, it's still a dot release, but it's the next big content one, and it's coming on Tuesday. And it brings with it the beginning of season 2, which I think officially starts the week after.
Yes. Curse of Ulatek.
Yes.
Is what we are getting. And a couple other game changes around what they're bringing with that update too. But the whole season 2, a lot of people are hotly anticipating it, and I know a couple game. I just dipped back in just for like an hour or so last night back into Ark, and one of the other key new Overlords Ark players said, we'll see what we can get done in the next week if we want to like go kill one of the bosses that we've sort of been setting up for, because they're going to get sucked back into World of Warcraft because it's coming. A lot of people are. Look forward to that. That's cool. All right. This podcast is brought to you by Garden and a Goat, the upcoming game from Contemplation Games. We're going to have some interesting news coming up on Garden and a Goat in the next couple weeks, so keep an eye out for that. And you'll see that. I think we'll also have some new fun things to be showing off. We've been a little bit quiet in the Discord as we've been working through some of our designs and working out things going on in the Alpine Forest, our second biome. And there's some really fun stuff. There's some really cool stuff. So can't wait to show it. This is also brought to you by Alea Iacta Est at aie-guild.org. That's the gaming community that Sema and I play with. Lots of fun stuff. That's where we do our Star Wars The Old Republic game nights. We've got Final Fantasy game nights. We've got tons of World of Warcraft. I'm sure that's going to be big in the next couple of weeks. So you can check that out there. And of course, newoverlords.com for the stuff that we've got going on in our gaming community. And that's where you can get to us most directly if you want to say, hey, here's something you should go play and try and check out, which people have done. In fact, I've got one on my backlog that I installed, but I haven't run yet. That someone turned me on to. That's an alpha that I'll be talking about the next couple weeks. It's, of course, also brought to you by everybody out there right now watching, listening in the chat room, people on YouTube, on Twitch replay, on all of the audio feeds. Alexa, play New Overlords podcast. You can do that. Download all the episodes. Is yours talking? Sorry. That is a thing. So we really appreciate it. But with that, we've got actual new games and old concepts to talk about. So let's get into that.
There's strength in repetition. There's strength in repetition. There's strength in repetition. There's strength in repetition.
Nostalgia isn't really about repetition, but it is about, and like in some ways it manifests as repetition. And we'll talk about kind of like what they're doing with Halo as an example of it being a little bit of repetition. But I got fascinated by this idea of nostalgia because I did play the new Halo campaign, remade, reforged, whatever. I keep forgetting the name. Yeah, Halo Campaign Reforged, which is a remake, not a remaster. But when I was playing it, this would be that would be a key example of a game that I should have a lot of nostalgia for, and I do have some nostalgia for it. And it reminded me last week, and we've talked about it before on the show, of talking about nostalgia and why nostalgia and why do game companies lean on nostalgia and in movies and that kind of thing. And there's the business end of it. So I ended up going down this rabbit hole of, here you can see I've got like PubMed PubMed nostalgia and consumer behavior. There's the abstract. I'm like reading research papers and journals, medical journals, and on nostalgia and what's the deal. Economic journals, research. On the business side, we get it. There's the idea that you can take a known brand and a known success and potentially do it again so that you can get more money out of it. You can build on top of the brand. You can take that established IP that in theory is less risky and already has market recognition and make more money out of it. So that's a key thing that we see happen time and time again. And a lot of this is similar between games and movies. And we see it even more directly and more obviously in movies. The latest Moana remake, where the time between the original and the live action remake is like getting shorter and shorter and shorter because they recognize it as a money faucet that they can turn on, and they're starting to turn it on quicker and quicker and quicker. This kind of reminding me of when studios and content producers, movie producers realized that if they could shorten the time between being in theater and going to streaming or going to video, if they could shorten that time, maybe they could make even more money in a shorter amount of time. So are we going to get to this point where you're going to have like, this year we're going to get a movie and next year we're going to get a remake of that movie? Or the animated ones. We're going to get an animated one this year and a live action next year if it's successful. Or in 6 months or in 3 months. Who knows? I hope not. But there's also significant research out there on the business side that says you could do it and you do get a little bit less risk and that kind of thing, but you are certainly not guaranteed success. And in fact, oftentimes those attempts at using nostalgia to create to re-release a product almost never does as well as the original does. And there's a lot of risks from a business perspective in just audience rejection because it's seen as
right. I was just thinking that when you said it's lower risk, but it's also a different kind of risk. There is a risk.
Yeah.
Unlike Sony just announced they're not making any more of their Spider-Man universe movies. They closed that down.
I missed that missed that announcement. So no more.
The movies where they do like they take a Spider-Man villain.
Oh,
and that movie is that like Madam Web and
Morbius.
Morbius.
It's Morbin time. Yeah. None of those did very well.
Right. But the point of them was to create something in a known IP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they ran afoul of the risk that is there when you just make something from a known IP.
Right. Yeah. And there's myriad risks. But the other side of it that I was interested in is what about us and what about consumers? What parts of nostalgia are attractive and fun and why? Because I said this last week and it's still mostly true is I'm not big on nostalgia. Nostalgia doesn't get me very much. It doesn't work for me. Not at all. Because as I said, when I'm playing through Halo, I wanted to see it because it was new. I did not want to play it because it was old, even though if I'm going to have nostalgia for any game, Halo would be a key one. I had some great times in 1.0. I worked at Microsoft at the time. I played it with coworkers because we're all Microsoft people. We're all like, this is like a brand new thing. When we first were able to do multiplayer, it was all LAN party. There was no Xbox Live. I was a beta tester, an alpha tester internal for Xbox Live when that came out. But we'd have these events in the office where we'd be playing on the conference room projectors and we'd have 4 people in 3 different, 4 and 4 and 4 in 3 different conference rooms. And that was good times. That was really fun. And there's social connection. That's a big part. This is what this PubMed thing is talking about. It's like feeling part of the in-group and social connection. And when you're down the road and you've like left that behind, being nostalgic is sometimes the idea that you want to feel that social connectedness again. And you have a desire for that to manifest again, which is fine and cool. And does bring people together too. Even now, when something new comes out, people will talk about it from a nostalgic perspective and have a new social experience around it. So I think that's real and fine. This next article I thought was interesting, and I wonder if people sort of like feeling stressed and like, especially like in the time of COVID, having stress and isolation and rapid change, the effectiveness of nostalgia is, in theory, by this research, higher during those times. because it's almost a conservatism effect where you want just a little bit less rapid change. You don't want the world to be on fire. And you think back to a time when things seemed simpler, whether or not they were, and that's why the nostalgia is attractive in those kinds of ways. But the most interesting part, which I think I'm most positive on in terms of nostalgia, and when I think about something like Halo and what I played, is this idea of borrowed nostalgia or appropriated historical nostalgia. Bringing in a new group and making them part of the nostalgia is a piece of that. And I think that's really cool. So part of that could be being nostalgic for, like, you personally being nostalgic for time periods that that you couldn't even have been a part of. Maybe you like to do Renaissance fairs because it just seems like a cool time period, a cool aesthetic, and you kind of like wish you were part of that. You want to sort of like be part of that. And you're nostalgic for for swords and knights and castles, and of course you're not actually nostalgic for it because you never experienced it. But that borrowed nostalgia can be really powerful and fun. And introducing new audiences to something that you're nostalgic for, or that there is nostalgia for, I think is really cool and fun too. And when you've got a product that is based around nostalgia, a lot of times the way it's designed from a marketing and a business perspective is to bring in that new audience or to introduce people to something that they didn't experience before. And in that way, I think that's where a lot of like the mixed reviews and the backlash and that kind of thing kind of happen to these products that get produced, games or movies, is that it's being designed based on nostalgia to introduce that nostalgia to a new audience, but not satisfy the actual core audience who actually has the nostalgia. And in fact, because they're not satisfying that audience, because they're making it to bring in the new audience, it ruins it for the old audience. And that's why you get those people that hate it, even though the new people may like it. And they hate it because it's different in a lot of cases. So that's why you'll get a lot of those kinds of like mixed reviews. And there's a little bit of that mixed review stuff coming for Halo as an example, for those hardcore fans that have the nostalgia to say, why did you change anything? Well, because it's like a new thing for everybody and for new people. And the old thing still exists. You can still go watch the original Moana. You can still go play the original Halo. It doesn't take that away. And I think that's what sometimes the people forget. It doesn't take it away.
I definitely think that movies have driven this. But there is a perception, me included, that when a game does a remaster or a remake, they don't have to go through the same process that a movie in the same IP has to go through. Like, they don't have to, like, there's a perception that they can just repackage it up and push it out there, that it's easy compared to like doing another Avengers movie. Like that, in the case of another Avengers movie, yes, they're taking less risk in terms of creativity, but they also have to hire actors again and writers again and director, producer, create a whole new thing. Whereas you repackage Halo, maybe not so much.
Right. And I think you can have a little bit of a backlash saying it's lazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's not, I think there is work involved, but I'm just saying that
I think it is less work involved though.
And
less risk. One of the key criticisms of Halo, and again, it's getting good reviews. I mean, it's I don't want to make it seem like it's panned or it's bad or people hate it. But it's not 10 out of 10. One of the criticisms though is we kind of really wanted a Halo 7. And this is fine. It looks good. It feels good. And yeah, I remember Blood Gulch, and I remember playing the campaign, the original campaign. That's cool. But we really wanted a Halo 7, the Halo fans. especially since there was already a remaster. We had the original Halo campaign, then we had the remaster, and this is a remake. So the other danger that you get. So let's talk about. I guess let's get into it, and we can use it as an example and bounce some of these ideas around. So I played it, and one of the key development aspects of what they did with this is they moved it to Unreal Engine, and the fact that it still feels like the original game, and you kind of still get that original Halo feel of the gunplay and the movement and the way the Warthog controls. That's a key. It's almost like that was an experiment and they wanted to prove that that was possible. But from a player perspective, if it feels exactly the same, that's good. It doesn't feel worse. Maybe it couldn't feel better because it was sort of like best in class in terms of the way this kind of game should play at the time. A lot of games, this sort of like built a way to play these first-person shooter games in a lot of ways. It shouldn't feel doesn't need to feel better, and it doesn't feel worse. Good job. It feels the same. But that's not a selling point. You can't say, Halo, we did it again, and you can buy it again, and it feels the same. It's like, well, why should I buy it again then if it just feels the same? But from a development team and a studio perspective, them being able to put it out, move it to a new engine, and have it feel the same is a big success. But also makes people excited for a Halo 7. Now you've got it. Great. You did it. You proved you can do this in Unreal. Now let's get let's get the hardcore fans a new game. So that's a key piece of it. I did like it. It did feel like Halo. It controlled like Halo. Driving the Warthog felt like driving the Warthog in Halo. All the weapons running around. The way I would go around corners where I had the muscle memory. Where I'm like turning before you reach the corner so I can like slide left and like duck out of cover and do all of that. It felt good. Graphically, that's the next thing that they did is the graphics are definitely upgraded. The environments look amazing. A lot of people, some people criticize the Covenant parts are a little too purple. Like they kind of went kind of monochrome purple in all of those environments, but it's a style, it's an art style. And I think it looks good. The grass, the water, all that kind of stuff, I think looks really good. And that's what they were going for as well. It's sort of like the modern engine with the modern graphics and the modern effects. It looks amazing. They did update a couple other things. That they updated the character models. They brought in a lot of the original voice actors, so that's all good. But they also updated the character models. And one model they updated in particular, this just did stand out to me a bit. Not really in a bad way, but not in an unnecessary way, was Cortana. So they updated Cortana. Cortana's face is a different, it's like a different person. It's like they brought in a different actor to play this digital person that doesn't exist. And like, why did you do that? I don't know. That kind of like breaks the nostalgia. You look at that and go, is that still Cortana? Am I supposed to? Oh, it is Cortana. You know, what's going on there? But it's fine. It's not that big a deal. They did add new content. So they added some bonus chapters, which are kind of like prequel chapters. And those are getting mixed reviews. So I saw reviews from professional reviewers, from journalists saying they're really fun to play. I was seeing other reviews from other people and from players saying, they're lackluster and boring. I didn't play them, so I don't know for sure. But that's what you're going to want out of a remake, is what's the new content and why is it interesting to me? Because again, if you're just playing the original game, we can just go play the original game. If it's not for me, who wants to have as the nostalgia fan, and it's just for a new market who never played the original game, then great. And then just make it exactly the same as the original game. But the parts that they did make different, one other part that they did make different was they added like a new character and sort of like a new side story along the way. It's like a gunnery. I think she's a gunnery sergeant, but there's a woman in the military who doesn't, who doesn't trust Master Chief, and there's like a little bit of conflict there, and she She's like a tough military. I did see in a couple of the forums and a couple of the reviews, like if you scroll down on some of like the reviews in various places on Metacritic and on Steam, you'll get a couple people saying, "Oh, this woke garbage," because they added a strong woman into the game. Thankfully, I tried to find if this is a real criticism, and from the journalist perspective, I'm surprised. From the journalist perspective, even though this is, you could just scroll through any of the feedback forums and see, woke garbage, blah, blah, blah. Nobody picked it up as a story. And I'm pretty happy about that because it's not a story. There's no reason to bother talking about it. It's not done for that reason. Just because there's a woman in the game doesn't mean that you guys need to be idiots about it. And none of the journalists picked it up and like made it into a thing, even for the clicks. So I thought that was cool on the journalist's part. Not not getting sucked.
You know what
into
I'm
that.
kind of think about too with this game, because we were talking about this earlier about, and everything is shades of gray versus good old good versus evil story, and how that's not popular now. But this is a good versus evil story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Covenant. In fact, I think there were even like, not only do we have like a conflict with this alien race, but they were like really bad too in some like the side stories, like hunting humans for sport and that kind of thing. And you want that. You want to show the enemy is really bad so that you feel fine murdering them all.
Right, exactly. I would rather murder these aliens than, my buddies.
Yeah. Yeah, like the people who have a slightly different opinion than me.
Right, exactly.
But yeah.
And I mean, they are actively trying to do something that in the end, they don't realize it, but in the end is going to destroy the universe. So yeah, you're fighting the good fight.
Yes. There are reports coming out this week about the development cycle for the game having some sort of like friction behind the scenes. And one of the things that was missing in this campaign Evolved is there's no multiplayer. People were disappointed that there's no multiplayer. That's another reason some people sort of like downvoted the views. Yeah, it's down to mixed on Steam. Which just doesn't deserve a mixed. This is a good game. It's all about expectations. But yeah, multiplayer was a big part of it. It was a big part of the original Halo. It was a big deal. I did play through the entire campaign originally. Now that I think back, it's probably one of the few games in my life that I played the original campaign all the way. And but I played multiplayer much more. And that's where a lot of the nostalgia comes from. So I could see that being disappointing to a lot of people that are coming into it that actually have the nostalgia for it. So that's sad. And then I just thought this Game Rant article was interesting. One of the original X devs, Marcus Lido, tweeted out and said, "Been slowly playing through Campaign Evolved on Heroic, the difficulty we designed the game for 25 years ago. Overall, I really love the upgrade, movement, cinematics, visuals. Damn, the lighting is brilliant. Do I have gripes? A few, but they are taking a backseat to the fun." Nice tweet. This entire Game Right article is about that tweet and just restating those 4 lines in that tweet. It's like, come on, guys. I mean, I guess you got to write articles. So they were able to post that tweet, write 4 paragraphs about the things said in that tweet, and add 5 ads, bookending it. So good job, you did it. But yeah, I liked it. I had fun. Am I going to play through and finish the campaign? No, I already did. I did back in the day. I lived it. I don't need to remember it. And I got new things. I live in the future. So I did feel the nostalgia. I did think about it and how fun it was back in the day. I did play this on Xbox. I played it on my couch with a controller. That was interesting. felt like old times. I don't play many console games. I played this and the next game we're going to talk about on the Xbox. It also being Game Pass day one, and Beast of Reincarnation being Game Pass day one, I think were highlights for me as well. So there's that. So I have Game Pass still, so I didn't pay anything for these two games.
That's nice.
Yep. Anything else on Halo, Sema? Fun times?
No.
If they add multiplayer in, then we'll have to get some multiplayer going.
So I can punch you.
Yeah. And you could punch if you get the light sword, and the punching is really effective. Super effective.
The light sword.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
I'll remember that.
Yeah, I even remember back in the day. This was the days of, and I would get the Xbox magazine. So there was an Xbox magazine, an actual paper magazine, and they would have stuff in there, and they would have like challenges, and I would do the challenges, and there was like, you have to get the Scorpion tank up on top of the base in the war zone. And you had to do that with like, you pile up a bunch of grenades and you drive the tank over it the right way, and you gotta like hit it with a rocket launcher. Other things where you're doing like rocket jump. Rocket jump is where if you standing on the ground and you shoot the rocket launcher at your feet, you'll kill yourself. But if you jump up in the air and shoot the rocket launcher at the ground, your shield will get wiped out by the explosion, but you won't die, and it will blast you up in the air. So you would use that in a way to like get places you're not supposed to go, and like, a bunch of other challenges. I remember doing a lot of those, and I think like even one of them I did it, and I took a picture of my TV to show that I like did it and sent it somewhere. I'm like, I have flashbacks of I think I was doing this like back in the 90s or whenever that was. Wow. Fun times. Nostalgia. But I want what's next. Give me Halo 7. I want to play that. I lived this. What else you got for me?
But would you really play Halo 7 beyond a couple hours?
Yeah, no. But I'm more interested in it.
I know you want to say things are, the appeal is just nostalgia, but I mean, you play basically the same game loop all the time. You're looking for the same game over and over again.
Loop, I would say, is like genre or type of game. I wouldn't consider that as like nostalgia or set. Like if they came out with a Halo survival game, that might be a big deal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say if you only play first-person shooters and you're just dying to get the next cool first-person shooter, doesn't mean you're like stuck in the past. You want new mechanics, you want the new game, you want new graphics. I want all of those things. I like the Halo universe. I do prefer different game styles. If there was a Halo MMO or a Halo survival game or a Halo, if it's a full Halo RPG, I'd probably play it more. I'll play a Halo campaign probably more than I would other games because I like the technology, the sci-fi aspects of it too.
Right.
And if it's a really compelling story, maybe even a little bit more. But yeah, I like other kind of games that, I like the survival games and the building games and more of the MMO-ish kind of games. And I would get into that quite a bit more than just a shooter campaign. Speaking of RPGs, let's talk about the next one. I played Beast of Reincarnation, and this was another game that was day one on Game Pass. This also is a tough one. No nostalgia associated with this one, so we're done with the nostalgia talk. You can be nostalgic for our nostalgia talk because now it's in the past. Beast of Reincarnation. So this game is made by Game Freak, and that is a big part of the big deal of of what is driving some of the conversation right now around this game, because Game Freak is the Pokemon, one of the key developers, key parts, core of Pokemon. And a lot of people are saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing something new and interesting. And it's, this graphically really, beautiful and amazing. And it ratcheted up the expectations quite a bit. So let's talk about what the game is. Then we'll talk about its reception, which is less, but a lot of that I think is just due to the mismatch in expectations and people's expectations being too high. So what is it? It's an RPG, a little bit of Souls-like-y kind of fights, but sort of like an action RPG, run around, fight swords, fight with swords, go on an adventure, somewhat semi-open world, bosses that you're encountering, gathering up some power-ups along the way, gaining levels, adding to your stats, unlocking skills in your skill tree. It's an action RPG, straight up action RPG. You play as, I forgot her name. You play as the girl.
Emma.
You play as Emma, who's a purifier. And so she's out there, and this is like a post-apocalyptic. In fact, I think it's set in like the year 3000 or something. It's a post-apocalyptic world, and there's a lot of corruption, and you're a purifier, but you've got amnesia for some reason, and so you don't want to get your own story, but you're this purifier. You're going out there to like fight these bosses, clear the corruption, and fight against whatever's like causing this. And then the Beast of Reincarnation is sort of like a core part of the story that you're heading towards. You start in this Imperial Walker, and I forgot what that's called. It's called like the Purifier vehicle or something like that.
A Cleanse Walker.
Cleanse Walker. That sounds right. I kind of like that concept. They don't do a ton with it, but you do kind of use it as a mobile base as you're moving forward. You do upgrade, like you have like a little upgrade table in it. That's where you have like one of your companions hangs out and like cooks food for you. And you can there's a whole interaction associated with that. And I think a little bit of backstory for some power-ups, but you get like the table that you'll upgrade where you're going to be upgrading your weapons and stuff like that. I like that kind of base to come back to, and the fact that it's a mobile base is a cool aspect. And then another key aspect, which is really seen as a huge highlight of the game, is you have a companion that's with you all the time, fighting with you, and it's the wolf, the dog, Ko. I think its name is Ko.
Yeah.
So Ko is its own character, doesn't talk, just a big white wolf. Most of the time in the fights, I haven't been showing. I've had the video going here the whole time. Sorry. So this big white wolf is really cool, and everybody loves the wolf. Most of the time in the fights, it just like helps out. It's like just there doing its own thing and like biting the enemies, and then you can press a button in the middle of the fight, and it kind of like slows time, kind of pauses and gives you different abilities of Ko's abilities that need to recharge, but then you can pick an ability and have Ko do something special. So maybe like a CC or an execution attack or the various things that you can upgrade or swap out. So you do a Ko ability, then Ko will do that ability while you're doing your abilities. There's a little bit of dodge, quite a bit of parry. And then so you do these fights with Ko, weave Ko into the fight, and do your own sort of like sword fighting and stuff. And bow and arrow too is a big part of it. You also get some of Ko's abilities when you're running around. And I guess your hair is a big part of the ability too. You've got magical hair. But between you and Ko, yeah, like your hair whips out and like becomes like a bridge that you can walk across.
Wow.
Yeah, like see like her big braid is like all woven with
Yeah.
the flowers and plants.
Yeah.
So you kind of like use your hair as a grapple, I guess, as quite a bit. So right off the bat, you're like using it as a movement tool to get around the environment, to get a little, it's not very deep, but how do I get across this ravine? Well, I got to like use my hair to create a bridge, and then I do a little bit of a jump, and then I'm across. So there's a bunch of that kind of thing. You kind of like get a double jump with your hair that like boosts you up really high and that kind of stuff. So that's all part of it. Then there's the bosses. You're sort of like fighting the bosses. You're fighting a lot of like broken droids that are like hanging around. They're old and rusted. You gather, if they sometimes drop little materials like rusted metal, and you can take that and you can use it. You pick up some weapon upgrades like for your bow and for your katanas, your swords. And you can upgrade those. It's all pretty cool. Visually, great. Stunning. Looks really good. Yeah. When you run around the world, I love the look of the world. I like the look of the people and the robots and the dog is amazing. That is the highlight. That is a 9 out of 10. And a lot of people agree. Even the reviewers agree. The part that's bringing down the reviews for everyone else, and for me a little bit too, I thought it was fine. IGN gave it a 6 out of 10. I think that's a little bit too harsh. I think visuals 9 out of 10. Maybe it's a 6 out of 10 on the gameplay, and I'll explain why in just a second. But that would have put it overall at a 7 or 7.5 for me. But the gameplay is it's just pretty vanilla. It's like there is the dodge parry and there's the move set on each of the bosses. But when you have these kinds of bosses, what people expect from games that have these kinds of bosses now, from Expedition 33 and from the Souls-like games, is make them interesting and make every boss has got to be like unique and have its own moveset, and you got to like learn the fights. And that's kind of like the power of that kind of fighting game. And here it's just relatively lackluster. The bosses just have a couple moves, and there aren't that many of the bosses, and they make you fight the same boss usually a couple times in each of the chapters. So you might have like encountered the boss and seen the boss, and then you fight the boss, and then you got to fight the boss again in a slightly more powered up form, but kind of like the same move set still. And it's just not that interesting. For the people that are really into that kind of like learn the fight, experience the dopamine hit from getting through that cool, that cool learning process. It's not enough of that. Okay. So that's a thing. The move set that like your upgrade tree is pretty good. A lot of people are having fun with that, but it's like your sword, you get new swords, but the swords are like, this is a slightly different sword. And here's the 5th sword you got, and it's a slightly different sword. Nothing like transformative or really all that interesting in terms of your bow upgrades or your sword upgrades or your weapon upgrades. So that was a little disappointing. And then story-wise, people feel like the story is just a little bit vanilla also. It's a kind of a tropey story. It's like, oh, no, I have my memory. What's actually going on? Oh, this is what's actually going on. And it's like, oh, that's fine. They all lived happily ever after. So all of those kinds of things put together, visually stunning package, but fine on the gameplay, is what most people then are rating it lower. And then I think everybody's giving it a -1 point on expectations because it's Game Freak. So if this had been like an unknown studio, it would have been coming out as like a 7 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10.
It's getting judged more harshly, you mean?
Yep. Yeah, it's getting judged more harshly because it looks like the AAA amazing game, and then the gameplay doesn't match, for one, and for two, because it's Game Freak and everybody was like, I can't wait to see what they're gonna do. And then they do this, and they're like, it's a fine game. But I was, my expectations were up at 11, and you came in at a 7, so I'm going to give you a 6.
Yeah.
So I think that's where that's at. But Game Pass Day 1, it's out there. I recommend giving it a shot, especially if Game Pass, because it's still cool. It's still cool. It's cool looking, visually stunning, and maybe it'll really click with you. Maybe you don't need
It might. Yeah.
to die 50 times on every boss fight, and it's okay. The parry windows are very generous. So I didn't mind the parrying really at all. You know how I am with parrying and dodging and stuff.
Right.
I didn't mind it. The moves are relatively telegraphed. Some of them is like, you got to know if it punches you 1, 2, or 3 times in a row. but you learn it pretty quick, and then it keeps doing that. And I, within the fight, I'm able to learn the fight enough to not die in the boss fight. I don't mind that.
I think if it's your kind of story, the story might carry you through because it's,
Yeah.
The bond between, well, let's say human. She's not technically human, but an animal is one thing, and also the meaning of having a soul, since she's like missing that part of her, like maybe in her journey they examine what that means, which reminds me of, Next Generation and Commander Data, all the episodes that were about, what does it mean to be human? Those were my favorite episodes of TNG.
Yeah. And from what I understand, it's fine, but it's kind of like the tale as old as time, same story that's been told elsewhere, probably better.
Right.
But if, again, you want to hear another one of those, even if it's a little vanilla, that can still be fun and fine.
Yeah.
So cool. But I had fun playing new games. So that's me. How about you, Sema? Anything else this week? Anything else we need to catch up on? I did say I played a little bit of ARK.
Well, I mean, I did play a little bit of Star Wars Early Republic and a little bit of WoW. Like last week I was saying I took a break, but this week I delved back into a character, one of my OG characters really, or very old anyway, VO characters, who's a gnome rogue. And I had started to level her before and she was around 85, max level right now is 90. And there's an XP boost on right now, so I leveled her the rest of the way to 90 this week, which was pretty fun because it was fast by WoW standards. Not fast by SWTOR standards, but still pretty fast. And then in SWTOR, we're still on a lull between galactic seasons, but his new galactic season is just around the corner.
Yeah, when does it actually start?
I think it starts on the 18th.
Okay, so it is just around. That's also the date of the WoW update, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, you're going to be busy.
Yeah.
We'll see what's going on.
Because the new season in WoW will bring new delves and new dungeons, and I mean, of course, new operation, not new raid. I mean, but you really need to do like all the other content to get your gear in shape to do the raid.
I didn't mention, I did kind of finish what I'm going to finish in Pokemon or in Pal World.
Oh.
Yeah, I did. And I played it still a lot. I played through, I got to the World Tree. So the World Tree was the big thing that came with 1.0. So I got through the floating island land. I fought the giant whale, which was a pretty big deal. It was a pretty big fight. And it forced me to, I was kind of trying to skip ahead a bit because I knew like once you get to the World Tree, well then like the end game resources are much easier to get. But before you get to the World Tree, it's like you're only getting like 3 at a time and you need 100. But once you get to the World Tree, you can get like 100 in 30 minutes. So
wow.
I was like, oh, well, I just need to get to the World Tree. Okay.
That's incentive.
Well, and then I got to get to the World Tree, you have to beat the whale boss, to prove your worth. And then he joins you and he's what brings down the shield that gets you access to the World Tree. And then in order to do that, I did have to, I couldn't jump too far ahead. I had to like do the grind to upgrade my gear because it's a very difficult fight compared to a lot of the other fights up to that point. So I had to like do all the things and I couldn't skip. But that was fun. It was its own content. I got the Jetragon, the Jet Dragon mount. I leveled up some. I got like some 4-star pals for the fight. I upgraded my weapons and I upgraded my armor to ancient armor, and I had to like upgrade my crafting pals. They did this thing. It was actually pretty interesting. When you start the game, you make the crafting table. You can like you personally walk up to the crafting table. You say, build me some arrows. And then you have to like hold F to like do the building action for 30 seconds and the arrows are made. And then you can assign a pal and you and the pal can work together and it speeds it up. Well, by the end game, they do this thing with the ancient crafting table and the ancient forge where you need pals of 2 different elements. You need a fire and a frost to be working on it, and you can't do it. So, and it takes a long, long time. So then you want like high levels in fire, in kindling, and a high level in cooling. So then you're doing extra work to breed up or capture more of those and condense them and upgrade their abilities and get the books and get the upgrades and doing all of that. So that made more content on its own as well. And the game just turned out to be really good at all of those little chains of, well, what am I going to do now? I gotta upgrade. I need to kill the whale. Okay, well, to kill the whale, I need a better gun. Well, to get a better gun, I need to build this crafting station. Okay, well, to build the crafting station, I need to get these materials. Okay, well, to do these materials, I need to run an expedition. Okay, to run the expedition, I need to upgrade my pals so they have the expedition power. And it's like this whole chain of things that all like, they did a really good job of connecting that chain of stuff to do that really gets you engaged in a really fun way and gets you a little bit of that feel of the ADHD as well, a little bit, because you'll like go down this rabbit hole and like forget what you originally started to do. Forrester asks, how many hours did I put into Power World? I couldn't tell you. I'm sure a lot. Because I could look at Steam and look at the number, but that includes what I did originally. So yeah, I didn't checkpoint at the start. I got to the world tree. I didn't do much in the world tree. This is the other part though. So I've got up to ancient tier on most of the stuff. I did go to the world tree, but there's like a new mechanic when you get to the world tree that kind of annoyed me. And I know there's like one more boss to fight, and I haven't done any of the hard mode bosses. There's like the end boss at the world tree. And I still may go back and do that. But that's kind of like where I stopped. It's like I didn't want to like do the grind to get the water. So, because you can't even like, I figured, well, I'll just go there and mine a bunch of the ore and I'll like build the last couple things that I need to build. Well, you can't just go and no one merely walks into Mordor. So they did this new mechanic where you can't harvest any of the trees or mine any of the ore unless you have the life water buff on you. So you need to like kill mobs to get the life water, and then you need to put the life water on yourself and on your mount, and it's a consumable. So, and it only lasts like a minute or two. So then you mine up a little bit of wood and a little bit of ore, and then you got to get more water and put it on you. And there's ways to get around it down the road, but it was like a whole nother journey, which is the reason for the world tree. Not supposed to just go to the world tree for 5 minutes. It's the expansion. But I wasn't, I had played enough at that point that I'm at least ready for a break, and did end up taking a break. But yeah, quite fun. Did a lot. Got got the whole, like the breeding cycle all done, and sort of like a, not as hardcore as it could be, but, multiple of like the big egg hatchery machines, and, multiple sets of the breeding pens, and multiple types of the right kinds of cakes to get what I wanted out of even mutated eggs, and getting, some really interesting kind of end game pals that you, there's a butchering machine because some of the pals drop certain kinds of resources. So you can like just, it looks like a big conveyor belt kind of machine, and you open up the inventory and you transfer some of your pals into that inventory, and they show up on the conveyor belt, and they basically go into, and there's not like blood and guts, but they go into a grinder and the materials just come out.
Oh my God.
So you can like butcher them en masse. Because the other way to butcher them is you actually have a butcher knife that you construct, and you bring out the pal and you use the butcher knife on the pal. And when that happens, it pixelates the pal like laying on the ground. And so you like doing this like butchering motion and it's they like do a pixelated blurring out of the screen of you butchering the PAL in that case. But you're incented to do it. You kind of like need to set up this machine because sometimes you need like, well, now I get like 100 of XYZ. Well, how are you going to get 100 of XYZ? Well, you breed up a bunch of, breed up 100 of this kind of PAL, you put them on this machine and you get 100 of that resource out. But yeah, break time. I opened up Arc last night for half hour or an hour. There's some end game stuff in Arc I'll probably get back to just slowly on the side. That is fun to. There's parts of what I've got in my kit in Arc that I never got back to our original Arc playthrough that it's easy to just like drop in for like a half hour a day, do some fun stuff on the side and just let it cook then for the rest of the day and come back the next day. I think I'm going to be doing a little bit of that stuff on the side, and then it allows me more time to get back to work, which I'm doing as well.
Yes.
Less game time, more work time. All right. But I think that's it for us for today. Anything else then before we wrap it up, Sema?
Nope.
All right.
I think
Sweet.
we're done.
Good talk. Good talk, Sema. So for us, all the feed and subscribe links are on newoverlords.com and our videos up on YouTube/newoverlords. Please come chat with us in our Discord, as we like to say, newoverlords.com/Discord. You can also follow on also the social networks and we'll keep you up to date there too. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.